Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video, and in this video we're gonna create book summary application. During the creation of this project, we're gonna learn about storage in Android, and also we are going to see how we can manage files in Android. So if we're talking about storage in Android, storage is further classified into two different parts: internal storage and external storage. Internal storage is actually used to save application specific information like cache information or small files. When your application got uninstalled by the user, this data will be lost. Next, we are having external storage. External storage further classified into two different parts. We are having private external storage, we are having public external storage. Private external storage is actually used to store your application information, application data. This data is actually accessible by the user, so they can go and watch the information, but once your application got uninstalled, this data will be removed. And lastly, we are having public external storage. So if you save anything in public external storage, this data will be available to your user so that they can see and perform some operation. Recently, Android introduces a new concept of storage, which is scoped storage. The main concept of scoped storage is every app has a specific scope, specific domain, specific storage where they can perform the CRUD operation without accessing the other application files. So it also increases the privacy of our user. Now in this video, we're gonna learn everything, whether it is internal storage, whether it is external storage, private external storage, public external storage, or scoped storage. So we will see everything. Let's get started and begin with our project. So first, go to the description box where you can find my initial project GitHub repository link. Download the project and open up into your Android Studio. So this is our very basic setup of our project. Click this plus icon button. It will simply open a bottom sheet. In this bottom sheet, you can enter the book name, the summary of your book, and lastly, you can choose the storage type like the internal storage, private external storage, or the shared storage. So this is our very basic setup. Open up the main screen. So main screen contain all of the composables. Summary is nothing but a data class that contains the information of our file name, summary, and the storage type. Lastly, we are having type. So type is nothing but it actually used to tell us the storage type like internal, private, external, or shared one. So let's begin with our CRUD operation. So for that, I'm going to create a file, and the file name is file manager. In its constructor, I'm going to create member variable naming context. We are having a function over here naming save, and in this save, I'm going to pass my summary which you want to save. First, I'm going to check the summary type, and also I'm going to take the suggestion. So we are having three different summary type: internal, private, external, or shared. So let's begin with our internal storage first. So first, I'm gonna create a directory in our internal storage naming book summary, and on that folder I'm gonna store all of my information. So for that, I'm gonna create a function. This is nothing but an extension function over context, and I'm gonna call this create directory. This will return me a file. So first, I'm gonna take the root location. So root location is coming from files directory. Next, I'm gonna create a file. In this file, I'm gonna pass my root directory. Next, we have to pass the folder name. So for the folder name on the top, I'm gonna create a const val, and I'm gonna call this directory book summary and pass my folder name over here. So first, we will check the existence of our file. If it is not in there, then only I'm gonna make a directory and simply return this file. So this function is actually used to create a folder in our internal storage. Now write the implementation for the type internal. So first, I'm going to create a directory. So this directory is coming from context.create directory. Next, I'm going to create a file. In this file, I'm going to pass my parent directory. Next, we have to pass the file name. So this file name is coming from the summary. So on the top, I'm going to create a variable name file name. So summary.file name. So from the summary, we will fetch the file name, and after that, I'm going to replace something. So I'm going to replace .txt with empty string, and lastly, I'm going to plus the meme type, which is txt. Let me minimize this thing. Alright, so this will eventually give me the file name, and this file name I will use it over here. File have a function naming write text, and with the help of write text, you can write the information within this file. So I want to write this summary. So simply use summary.summary, and what it will do, it will simply write the summary within this file. So this is for the internal storage. Now let's talk about the external storage. So for the private external storage, so this storage is actually accessible by the user, but when our user uninstall the application, on that case, this information will be lost. So I'm going to do the same thing that I have done for the internal one. So first, I'm going to create a directory, a separate directory. So function, we are having context create private directory. This will return me a file, and in this first I have to take the root location. So this time the root location is coming from get external files directory and simply pass null. So it will return you the root location of your external file directory. Next I'm gonna create a file, and in this file I'm gonna pass my root directory and the folder name that I want to create. So I'm simply pass here directory. Next I will check if the file is not exist. On that case I'm gonna create a directory and simply return this file. Okay, so go to your private external. Now I'm gonna use here directory variable. With the help of context I'm gonna create a private directory. Next, similarly what we have done in the internal one, we're gonna use the same one. Next I'm gonna create a file, simply pass my directory and the file name. And lastly I'm gonna use file write text, write this summary. So this is for the private external storage. Internal and private external is nearly same for all the API version. For the time being, we will only write the internal and the private external storage implementation. In the future, we will write the scope storage for API level 29 or above, and the normal storage for the API level below 29. So this is for the save. Now it's time to write the other operation like the delete one. So for that, I'm gonna use here delete, pass the summary that I want to delete. So first we have to check the summary type. So again we are having three different types, simply add the branches. So for the internal, first we have to go to the folder where we have saved all the information. So for that we are having a variable naming directory. In this directory I'm gonna use context and again call this create directory. So what it will do, it will simply return me the folder location. So once we receive the folder location, I'm gonna create a file, and in this file I'm gonna pass my directory. Next we have to pass the file name. So file name is coming from summary.filename. Next we have to check the file existence. If it exists, then only we will delete it. So this is for the internal one. For the external we are having pretty much same directory. We are having context.create private directory. Next I'm gonna create a file. In this file I'm gonna pass my directory, then summary file name. Next I'm gonna check the existence. If it is exist, then only I'm gonna simply delete it. So this is for the internal and the external one. Now it's time to write the updation logic. So for the updation I'm gonna create a function. In this update I'm gonna pass my summary. Again I'm gonna check the type, summary type. So we are having three different types. We are having internal, we are having private external, and the shared one. So for the internal we are having pretty much same implementation. So first we have to take the directory location. So this directory location is coming from context.create directory. Next I'm gonna create a file, and in this file we have to pass the directory and the file name. So this file name is again coming from summary.filename. If file exists, on that case I'm gonna use file and write the text that we are receiving in the summary. So summary.summary. So this will ultimately update the file. Similarly for the private external we are having directory, context.create private directory. Next I'm gonna create a file. In this file I'm gonna pass my parent directory, and next the file name. So summary.filename. Check the existence of the file. If it exists, on that case you can use file, write text, and write this summary. This will eventually update the file. So now I'm going to create a function which actually used to get all of the information from internal storage and the private external storage. So for that we are having a function, and the function name is get summaries. This will return me a list of summary, and in this I'm going to create a list, mutable list of type is summary. Okay, so with the help of context I'm gonna take the location of our book summary which present in the internal location. So for that I'm using here create directory. Simply list all of the files that present in this directory and perform the map, or you can say transformation. So I'm gonna transform everything in form of summary. So in this summary we have to pass the file name. So this file name is coming from it.name. Next we have to get the summary, or you can say the information that present in this file. So use it.read text. It will simply read the information that present in the file. Lastly we have to pass the internal, because this information is coming from the internal storage. So it will give me the list of summary, And once we receive the list of summary, I'm gonna use here list add all and add all the information. Similarly, for the private external storage, I'm gonna use here context, create private directory, list all of the file, use map here, summary, it.name, it.read all of the information, and lastly, this is a type of private external storage, so that's why I'm using here private external storage. Let list add all and simply add all the information, and lastly from this function I'm gonna return the list. Alright, so that's it for our get summaries. Now go to your update and delete and save and change the return time from nothing to list of summary. So once we perform any operation, I'm simply return the get summaries. Similarly for the delete, this will return me a list of summary, and on the bottom you can use here a return get summaries. Similarly for the update, I'm gonna return here get summaries, change the return time from nothing to list of summary. Now it's time to create one more function which actually used to expose this get all summary in form of flow. So for that I'm going to create a function, and the function name is get summaries flow, and I'm using here callback flow. Type would be a list of summary, and in this we have to use our get summaries function. So I'm using here try send get summaries, and also I'm going to use here await close. So we are done with our internal and the private external storage operations. Now go to your main screen and perform all the operation which is not performed yet. So remove this to do. In place of update, you can simply use that file manager update. So for that, first we have to pass the file manager in our composable. So simply use file manager in our main screen. Here I'm going to create a launch effect, and this launch effect is used to collect the summaries. So in place of key, I'm using file manager dot get summary flow. In this we are having file manager get summary flow with lifecycle. So in order to pass the lifecycle, first I'm going to create my lifecycle owner. So this lifecycle owner is coming from local lifecycle owner dot current. Now it's time to use this thing. So use here lifecycle owner lifecycle, and lastly I'm going to collect the latest emission. So once we receive the latest emission, I'm going to simply update my UI state with the latest values. Now let's perform the insertion. So for insert something, first we have to create a summary. So in this summary we have to pass our title and description. So title represent the book name, so simply use here title. Description represent the summary, so pass your description, and lastly the type. Yeah, we are pretty much done with our summary. Now simply use your file manager and save it. Pass your summary. Now it's time to perform the updation logic. So this updation logic is performed with the help of file manager dot update. So here we have to pass the summary. So summary is present in our summary edit. So simply pass its value, and once you perform the updation, you can simply use summary edit value and reinitialize this thing with its initial value. So let's remove this to do from here update, from here insert, and on the bottom we are having delete. For the delete, I'm gonna use here file manager dot delete. So file manager dot delete and simply pass your summary. So summary is coming in form of it. And yeah, we are pretty much done with our internal and the private external storage. Now it's time to execute this application. Okay, so we haven't passed file manager from here. So on the top, I'm gonna create a variable private val file manager and initialize this thing with lazy. File manager, pass the context, and simply pass our file manager in my main screen. Simply click onto this plus icon, and here first I'm gonna store my information in the internals. Next we are having internal summary and save it. So it is not working. So go to your main screen, and once we perform the insertion over here, so once we perform the insertion, we have to update our UI state. Similarly, once we perform the updation, update your UI state. And once we perform the deletion, update this UI state. Now execute your application, and see, this time we are receiving the information that we have saved in our internal storage. Now simply store one more information in our private external. Save it, and here you can see. So this is our information which is present in our private external location. Now it's time to see whether these two information will be stored. So for that, you can go to the device explorer over here, minimize this thing. So in order to see the internal storage location information, open up this data. In this data we are having another data. So in this data you have to see the package name. So on the bottom we are having our package name. So here we are having Gaur Himanshu book summary. Simply open it, and in the files we are having book summary. Open this book summary, we are having internal txt, and this is our file information. So now let's see the location of our private external storage. So for that, go to this storage. In this storage, open up the emulated 0. We are having here Android. So in this Android we are having data. So open up this data and find your package name. So my package name is this one, Gaur Himanshu book summary. In this we are having a file, and in this file we are having book summary private external. So see, this is our file. Alright, so now it's time to execute the same application in API level 28. Alright, so now I'm gonna store something. So first for the internal, save it. Similarly for the private external storage, private external, save it. Alright, so this application will work for all API versions. Now it's time to see how we can manage the shared, or you can say public external storage. And on that case, after API level 29 or above, we are having scope storage. We will see how we can manage scope storage, and also we can see how we can manage API level 28 or below 28. So now we will begin with our CRUD operation in public external storage. But for version R or above, we are having scope storage. Scope storage says every application has a specific scope, and on that scope they can perform CRUD operation without taking read-write permission. So let's get started and see how we can perform this scope storage CRUD operation. So for that, go to your file manager, and in our save we will begin with our shared. So simply remove this to do, and in this first I'm gonna check my build version. So build version stk int, if it is greater than or equal to build version code R, on that case we will use scope storage. So for that, first we have to create the information that we want to save, and this information will be created in content values. By the way, if you don't know about content provider and content resolver, so you can watch my this video. On that video I have explained everything that you need to know about content provider and content resolver. By the way, scope storage will use content resolver under the hood to store all of our information. And content values is actually used to pass the information to our content provider. Watch that video. That video is very important. I'm going to create my content values, and in this I'm going to put few information. So this information is coming from our media store API. So in this we are having media store. We are having here media columns, and in this media column we are having a lot of key values. So we are having meme type, relative path, display name. So I'm going to use here display name, pass my file name. Similarly, I'm going to use my media store media column. Next I'm gonna pass my meme type. So my meme type is text/plain. Next I'm gonna put one more information regarding the path. So my path is coming from environment directory documents, and I'm gonna add one folder in it, and in this we are having our directory. So this is our content values. I mean, this will contain all of the information regarding my file. Now it's time to use content resolver. So for that I'm using here context.content resolver. In this content resolver we are having 4 operations: insert, update, query, and delete. So let's begin with our insertion. So in the insertion we have to pass the URI. This URI is actually used to tell the location where we want to save the information. So let's create the URI. So I'm gonna call this content URI. This is initialized with the help of media store. In this we are having files that contain one function naming get content URI. In this you have to pass the volume. So volume is actually used to represent or tell us the location. Again, this is coming from media store, and in this you can see we are having volume external and volume external primary. So volume external means if you are having any external SD card, on that case volume external will be used to represent or point the external SD card. If you don't have external SD card, on that case whether you are using volume external or volume external primary, it will simply point the internal external storage. So I'm going to use here volume external and simply use my content URI. Next we have to pass the values. So pass your content values that you have created on the top, and this will eventually return you a URI, and I'm gonna use this URI. Check whether it is null or not. If it is not null, I'm gonna use my content resolver one more time, context content resolver, and I'm gonna use here open output stream, because this information will be going from our application to the another application or some other location. So for that I'm using here open output stream, pass my URI, and in this we are having use function. So in this use I'm gonna create output writer. Basically, output stream writer is actually used to write our output stream in a specific location. In this, we have to pass our output stream. So simply pass it. Again, use function. And simply I'm gonna use it and write my information. So this information is nothing but our summary. So it will actually write the file, and in that file we are having information. So this is for the version R or above. Now it's time to write the save operation for below version R. So for that, first we have to check the state. So we are having here environment get external storage state. So this will actually use to tell us whether external SD card is present or not. So let's check that out. So state is equals to environment dot media mounted. If it is true, that means external storage is present. Now it's time to create our directory. So this directory is created with the help of environment get external storage public directory, and in this function parameter we have to mention the location. So my location is environment. I'm gonna use here directory download, and in this I'm gonna create a folder, and the folder name is directory. So first I'm gonna check whether my directory exists or not. If it is not exist, on that case I'm gonna create some directory in it. So now we are having directory, it's time to save the file. So for that we are having a file, and in this file we have to pass the directory, next the file name, and simply use your file and write the information. So in our write text we have to pass our summary.summary, and we are done with our save operation. Now it's time to begin with our delete operation. So for the delete, in the shared I'm gonna check the same things. If our build version stk int, if it is greater than or equal to build version code R, on that case first we have to create our content resolver. So this content resolver is initialized with the help of context.content resolver. Next we are having here projection. So in this projection we are having our media store.media column, and in this we are having id. So this is our projection. Next we are having selection. This selection is nothing but an string, and in this string I'm gonna mention my media store. In this we are having media column, and I want to select my file with the display name. So this is my selection. Next we have to mention the selection argument. So selection argument is nothing but our file name. So for that I'm using here summary dot its file name. So it's time to use our content resolver and perform the query. So in this query we have to mention the URI. So let's create our path URI. This is initialized with the help of our media store dot files dot get content URI, and I'm gonna use here, and in this we are having our volume external. Simply pass your path URI. Next we have to pass our projection. So pass your projection. Next we are having our selection, then selection argument, and lastly sort order is null. So what it will do, it will simply return me cursor. Now I'm going to check my cursor is null or not. If it is not null, on that case I'm going to use your while expression, and in this while loop we will simply use it dot move to first. We are having here index. This index is coming from it dot get column index or throw, and in the parameter I'm going to use media store, media columns, and id. So this will give me the index. Now I'm gonna fetch the file id. So file id is coming from get. In this we are having get long. So simply use get long and pass your index. So this will give you a file id. Now it's time to create the URI. I mean this URI is actually pointing out the file that we want to delete. So for that, on the top we are having here delete URI, and I'm gonna initialize this thing with empty string. So this is our delete URI initialization. Now it's time to update this thing. So this thing is coming from content URIs dot. In this we are having one function with appended id, and in this first we have to pass our path URI and next the file id. So now we are having our delete URI. Let me close this cursor first. Okay, so now it's time to use our context.content resolver and simply perform the delete operation. In this delete we have to pass our URI. So simply pass your delete URI, and in other places you can simply pass null. So this is actually used to perform delete operation. Now for the other cases, I mean for the version which is less than R, for that we're gonna use the same thing. So first we have to take the directory location. So directory location is coming from environment.get external storage public directory. In this we have to mention our environment directory download plus slash directory. Now I'm gonna create a file, and in this file I'm passing my directory and the file name. So file name is coming from summary.filename. If our file exists, On that case, I'm using here file and simply delete it. So we are done with our delete operation. Now it's time to perform update operation. So for that we are having pretty much same logic. So first we have to check the build version stk int if it is greater than or equal to build version code r. On that case, first we have to find the location of our file. So for that we are having here content resolver, initialize this thing with context.content resolver. Next we are having projection. This projection is nothing but an array of media store. In this we are having media column id. Next we are having selection. So selection is pretty much same just like we did for the delete. So here we are having media store. In this we are having media columns, display name equals to question marks. Next we are having selection arguments. So this selection argument is nothing but an array of our file name. So summary.file name. Now I'm going to use my content resolver and simply perform the query. In this query we have to pass the URI. So again for that we are having here path URI. This is initialized with the help of our media store dot files dot get content URI. Again we have to mention our volume. So volume is coming from media store dot volume external. Simply pass your path URI. Next we have to pass our projection, then selection argument, and for the sorting order I'm simply pass here null. This is nothing but a cursor, so I'm simply creating a variable naming cursor and store this thing in our cursor. So first I'm gonna check my cursor. If it is not null, I'm performing a loop with the help of file it dot move to first, and in this first I'm gonna take out the index. So this index is coming from it dot get column index or throw, and here I'm using my media store media columns id. So this will provide me the index. Now it's time to grab the file id. So it dot get long pass your index. This will give you the file id. Now it's time to grab the URI that will actually tell us the location of our file. So for that on the top I'm having here a variable and I'm gonna call this update URI. Initialize this thing with URI dot parse empty string. Come here, simply use update URI, and this update URI will be initialized with the help of our content URIs dot with appended id, and simply pass your URI. So my URI is path URI. First you have to mention the path URI, then you have to pass the file id, and this will eventually give you the URI of your file. Now it's time to perform update operation, but before performing update operation make sure to close the cursor. So it dot close, and now it's time to perform update operation. So for that I'm using my content resolver and open output stream, because this time the data is going from our application to some another location. That's why I'm using here open output stream, and in this we have to pass our update URI, and in this I'm gonna use here use function. Now it's time to perform the write. So in this we are having write. So we have to write our summary. So for that I'm using my summary and simply convert this thing into byte array. Make sure to check the nullability before the use. Alright, so this will eventually update our file. Now it's time to update our file version below R. So for that again I'm gonna perform the same thing. So first we have to take the directory. So this directory is coming from environment.get external storage. We are having environment directory download plus slash. We are having here our directory. Now it's time to create a file, and in this file we have to mention our location and the file name. So if our file exists, on that case I'm simply using here file and a write text, and in this text we have to pass our summary.summary. So this will eventually update our file. So that's it for our updation logic. So we are done with our create, we are done with our delete and update. Now it's time to getting all of the information that we have stored. So for that go to get summaries and start writing the logic for that. So if our build version stk int if it is greater than or equal to build version code dot r, on that case we are having a different approach, and below this version we are having very different approach. So let's begin with our below version R. So first we have to take the directory. So environment.get external storage public directory, and in this we have to mention environment directory download plus slash our directory. So this is our directory location. Now I'm gonna use your directory and list all of the files that present in it, and it's time to perform the transformation. So we are having a summary, and in this summary first we are having our file name. So it dot name. Next we are having the text. So simply use here it dot read text, and lastly the type. The type is shared. If it is not null, on that case I'm gonna simply add all the items in it. Okay, so this is for the version below R. Now it's time to perform getting operation for scope storage. So for that, first I'm gonna introduce a URI member variable to our class. So private val, and I'm gonna call this a URI. This is null initially, and in this we are having one function naming set URI. Pass your URI, and this will eventually use to update our URI. And instead of making this val, make it var so that it is reinitializable. Go to your get summaries function, and in this I'm gonna check if my URI is not null. By the way, this URI is actually used to tell the location in our public external storage in version R or above version R. So that's why I'm creating this URI. So now it's time to use here document file, and in this we are having one function naming from tree URI. So use the from tree URI and pass your context and the URI. Now we are pointing to the location where we are having all of our book summary file. Now it's time to list all of the file, and in this first I'm gonna write a filter. So this filter is actually used to tell us whether this documents that we are receiving is file or not. So for that we are using here it file. Now it's time to perform the transformation. So for that we are having here map, and in this first I'm getting a variable naming file name. This file name is coming from it.name, and this it is nothing but a document file. So just see over here, this is a document file. So we are having our file name. Now it's time to receive the content. So content is coming from context.content resolver, and this time I'm using here open input stream, and requirement of open input stream is URI. So this URI is coming from it.uri. Simply pass it. Now it's time to use buffered reader, and in this buffered reader we are having here use it.read text. So this will eventually provide me my content. Alright, lastly I'm gonna use here summary, and in summary I'm gonna store my file name, then the content, and lastly this shared one. So now we are having all of our summary file. Lastly I'm gonna check whether it is null or not. If it is not null, I'm simply using here list add all and simply add all of the items. This is actually used to fetch all of the information which present in our public external storage. Now it's time to go in our Android manifest and add some permission. So first we are having here a read external storage permission. Next we are having here a write external storage permission. So this permission is only for the version which is below R. So just take the suggestion. So here we are having set max SDK version is 32. For the write external storage we are having set max SDK version 32, and also we are having here tools ignore. Add this tools ignore scope storage. Now go back to your main screen, and in this main screen I'm gonna first take the permission. So for that I'm using here permission. Remember multiple permission state. In this we have to mention the list of permissions. So we are having here Android manifest permission. First we are having read external storage. Similarly we are having a write external storage permission. So this is an experimental API, so make sure to use experimental permission API on top of our composable. Now I'm using here launch effect. Key is unit, and in this we are having permission launch multiple permission request. So this is for the version which is below to R. So now it's time to take the location permission for API level R or above API level R. So for that first we have to check the build version. So build version STK int, if it is greater than or equal to build version code R, on that case I'm gonna create an intent, and in this intent let me import this intent. In this intent we are having an action. So action is coming from intent.action open document tree. We have to add few flags in it. This flag is also coming from intent.flag grant read URI permission or flag grant write URI permission, and after that I'm going to simply use here start activity result to open up the activity. So for that on the top we are having here activity result naming variable, and I'm going to initialize this thing with remember launcher for activity result. We have to pass the contract. So contract is coming from activity result contract dot start activity for result. Now it's time to use activity result. So here I'm using activity result and launch my intent. Else we have to use the permissions. So simply cut this thing from here, paste it over here. So once we receive the result, in this we are receiving data in form of URI. So this URI will point out the location that user has chosen to put all of their information. So I'm going to call this folder URI. Now I'm going to create context with the help of local context.current and use that context over here. context content resolver, and in this we are having here take persistable URI permission. We have to pass our folder URI and next the flags. So flag is again the same, intent.flag grant read URI permission or intent.flag grant write URI permission. So this piece of code is actually used, suppose user has chosen a location for the first time. So the next time when user rerun our application, on that case he simply land to the same location that he had chosen before. Now I'm gonna use my file manager and simply use its set URI function and set up my URI. So pass your folder URI. Alright, so we are pretty much done with our code. Now it's time to execute our application. So first I'm gonna execute this application API label 33. Alright, so our app is executing. So first we have to choose the location where we want to save our information in public external storage for API level 33. So I'm choosing here documents and simply use this folder. Allow the permission. After that I'm gonna store one information and I'm gonna call this shared. So this is my book name, and similarly we are having shared summary. This is my summary of that book. I'm using a shared external storage. Save it. Okay, so this is not accessible. Just re-execute your application and I'm going to tell you why it is not happening. Okay, so now we have to choose the actual folder where we have saved our information. So open up this book summary. Now in this book summary we are having our shared txt, and this time I'm going to use this folder. Allow the permission, and there we go, we are having shared txt. Now it's time to perform the updation. So here I'm using summary and add one y. Save it. Alright, so it will not work because in our file manager, so go to the update function. So this is our update function, and in this we have to break the loop. So once we receive the information, we simply break the loop. Similarly for the delete. Now copy this thing, go to your delete, and here we are having delete URI. So once we receive the delete URI, we will break the loop. Now re-execute your application. Okay, so I'm gonna use this folder. And now I want to update it. So here I'm using 1y. Save it. And this time you can see it will update my file which is present in the public external storage in API level 33. Now I want to delete it, so simply click on the delete icon and it will delete the information. Now it's time to execute the same application for API level 28, which is below to 29. Okay, so first we have to give the permission because in this API label we have to give the permission for read and write external storage. Now allow the permission. And in this I'm gonna save one information, naming shared, and similarly we are having shared summary. Now I'm gonna use shared in it. Save it, and there we go, we are having shared txt file. Now I want to update it. Simply use y in front of summary and save it. So it will update the file. Now I want to delete it, so simply click on this icon and it will delete it. So basically all of our CRUD operation will work fine for all API version. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you got the idea how we can use CRUD operation in our public external storage, and we have already discussed what is scope storage, and also we perform the CRUD operation. So yeah, that's it for this video. We will meet in our next video where we will discuss something new about Android. Till that, goodbye.